This tutorial will show you how to create content with Typemill. To start, let's go to the demo page and log in. You'll find this screen under /tm/login. After logging in, you'll be redirected to the content area. The content area consists of three elements. We see the page content on the right. On the left side, we find an interactive navigation that shows the page structure. At the very bottom, we see a publish bar for the respective page. Here you can publish, unpublish, and delete articles or change the write mode. Let's take a look at the interactive navigation first. You can use the navigation to create and structure your website. In contrast to WordPress, for example, a page at Typemill is structured hierarchically. This is also because Typemill was developed for publishers, and you can create books from Typemill websites. This means that the content is structured in a similar way to that of a book. We can easily create a new page by clicking the Add Item button, entering a title, and then creating a new file or page. Next, you can click on the new page to get to the content editing page. You'll see some demo content in there that can be changed. There's more you can do as well. For example, we can move a page to a different area. We can also move the page to a different level. There are colored markings to the side of each page. Green means that the page is published. Red means that it's not. I'm now publishing this page using the Publish button. Watch as the color of this page turns from red to green. Now I'll change the content on the page and save the changes. Notice how the color changes to orange. Orange means that this page is published. However, the page has been updated in the background and these changes haven't been published yet. If I want to publish the change, I simply press the Publish button again. I can also discard the change by clicking Discard. After I do this, a security question appears. Click Discard Changes again to see the content reset to the published version. We can also take the content offline by pressing the Offline button. We'll then see the page's color jump back to red. That means the page is no longer published. To republish the content, I simply press the Publish button again. I can, of course, also delete the page. This is what happens when a page is deleted. Let's go ahead and create the page again. And now fill the page with content. With Typemill, content is created with the Markdown language called Markdown. Markdown is very common. You know it from GitHub or popular tools like Trello or Reddit, for example. There are many Markdown tutorials on the internet. There is also a little guide on typemill.net. There's some info there, and you can find the syntax Typemill uses. Now, Markdown isn't for everyone. The language is very easy to use, but there are some elements that are a bit more difficult. That's why Typemill offers its own visual editor. This editor works in a similar way to a classic HTML editor. You don't have to be able to write in Markdown to use it. The editor takes care of the syntax for you. Let's create a new paragraph. We can add our text and then format the text to be bold. Here you can see what the Markdown looks like for bold text. If you click Save, you can see the finished formatting. We can also add links to our text. Again, this is what the Markdown syntax looks like. When I click Save, the Markdown is converted to a normal text link. Let's create a few blocks of content. First, I'll create a list. You can see that when I press return twice at the end of this element, the element is automatically saved. So save yourself the trouble in clicking the Save button every time. A new paragraph automatically opens below our saved element. If you don't want this, click the return key once and the input field closes. Next, I'll create an ordered list. Here's something else I want to mention. As you can see, the editor works with blocks. That means each paragraph is a separate block, and these blocks can be for different elements. I can insert additional content above blocks using this plus button. In this case, I'll create a special element, a table of contents. If I add a heading here, for example, you can see that the table of contents automatically updates. I can also enter headings at other levels. The table of contents updates again. And of course, I can also delete a block by clicking on the red X here. You can also create more complex content with Typemill. For example, tables. Tables are very unattractive to edit in Markdown. With Typemill, on the other hand, you can also edit tables using the HTML editor. Save your changes, and then you'll see the nice looking table you created. The same goes for pictures. Images are also a little more difficult to work with in Markdown, but Typemill makes it easy. I can either upload an image or select it from the media library. Then I can add alt text to it as well as a caption. So you can see that Markdown works very easily with the visual editor, even for novice users. If you prefer to write pure Markdown, you can switch to raw mode down here. Then you'll be able to see your text with the pure Markdown syntax. This is useful, for example, if you want to move larger paragraphs around the page. This is cumbersome with the block editor, but not in the Markdown editor. If you want, you can set up the raw mode as your standard editing mode. To do this, go to Settings, go to the Writing section, and click on the Raw Markdown mode. At the same time, if you want to remove some elements from the visual editor, uncheck the boxes next to them here. Then, when you save your settings and return to the content editor, you'll see that the content always opens in raw mode. And when you switch back to visual mode, there are now fewer elements to choose from. Next, let's take a look at your metadata. Under the Meta tab, you can enter a meta title and a meta description. You can also add a hero image. What happens to the image depends on your theme. With Cyanide, for instance, the image is not displayed. It only appears when your content gets shared on social media. You can also add an author here, as well as an owner. This field has to do with user access rights, which we'll cover in another tutorial. I can also enter a publication date. This is usually used for the display on the front end of the page. Now let's save everything and publish the article. Notice that if you don't fill anything into these fields, Typemill automatically extracts info from the page to create the meta title and description. Like in this case, it sometimes makes no sense. For SEO reasons, you should definitely create custom metadata and write good content for every page you create. I also want to provide two other tips here. I can change the navigation title, which I'll do right now. I can also hide the page from the navigation by clicking this checkbox. Now let's look at what that does to the navigation above. The navigation title is now different, and I see an icon of a crossed out I next to it. This signals that the navigation point is no longer visible on the front end. Even if it's not visible in the navigation, I can still call up the page on the website via the icon. This is where we see the content. At the moment, however, the navigation point is still visible. You can see that it's highlighted here. The reason we still see it is because the navigation is cached at Typemill, and the cache gets updated every 10 minutes. However, I can bypass this by simply doing a hard refresh on the page. Now you can see that the page has disappeared from the navigation. Otherwise, I could just wait 10 minutes to see the page reflect my changes. That's all you need to know about creating content at Typemill. I just want to show you one last point. Remember that I said that Typemill uses structured content. That is true, but there is also a somewhat hidden feature in the metadata. If you click on a folder and then open the metadata, you'll be asked at the bottom whether the subpages in this folder should be pages or posts. Pages are sorted in the navigation like regular pages. Posts, however, are sorted by date and are more like a blog or news section of a site. I'll save these changes and then we'll see that the structured content is now hidden in the navigation. To see your posts, open the folder and then the contents are listed here as posts with a publication date. We can take a quick look at an example on the official Typemill page. The latest news area and the individual pages are listed there in the style of a blog. It must be said, however, that this feature is pretty limited. If you want to set up a blog, you should use a real blog software and not Typemill. This feature is really only intended to create small news areas. That's it. Now go ahead and give Typemill a try, start creating some content, and you'll see how really easy it is.